you can actually build 100 crore plus businesses in niche spaces as well. And that's again the benefit of D2C. So you have very specific brands, whether it's kids personal care, or it's oversized teas, or it's Gen Z cosmetics. All of these brands are also able to build their products and their business using the power of digital. That's the beautiful part of it.
बट इसमें एक चीज़ ये भी होती है अर्जुन, जो अभी जो फाउंडर्स बनना चाहते हैं जो अर्ली स्टेज में, वो बोलते हैं यार मैं समझो स्किन केयर में आ रहा हूँ, 100-200 स्किन केयर ब्रांड पहले से ही बने पड़े, या आयुर्वेदा में आपने बोला 100+ गुड ब्रांड्स आउट देयर. सो हाउ डू यू डिस्टिंग्विश इन व्हाट इफ अर्जुन वैद्या हैज टू स्टार्ट इन 2023 अक्टूबर और नाउ सितंबर वी आर शूटिंग दिस एपिसोड, व्हाट पहले 3 स्टेप आप कौन से लोगे अगर आपको अभी सब स्क्रैच से स्टार्ट करना है?
तो आई थिंक देयर आर 3 मेजर स्टेप्स टू स्टार्ट अ D2C ब्रांड. उनका क्वालिटी इतना एलिवेटेड है कि लोगों 1300-1200 रुपए एक प्लेन टी शर्ट के लिए पे करते हैं बिकॉज द क्वालिटी इज सो गुड एंड यू वेयरिंग द टी शर्ट एवरी डे, राइट? सो इवन इन अ मार्केट दैट सीम्स क्राउडेड देयर इज एन एबिलिटी टू फाइंड अ नीश.
सो ऑफलाइन में और एक बहुत मेन चैनल ये है कि बिग बाजार, D-mart, ये यहाँ से तो बल्क में सेल आते हैं. सो यहाँ पे कैसे जा सकते हैं? लेट्स से किसी D2C ब्रांड को D-mart में घुसना है या बिग बाजार में.
सो यू आस्क दिस क्वेश्चन ऑन लार्ज फॉर्मेट रिटेलर्स लाइक D-mart एंड बिग बाजार.
ये एपिसोड आपको ज़रूर सुनना चाहिए अगर आप एक D2C फाउंडर हो, और अगर आप इन्वेस्टर भी हो, अगर आप D2C फाउंडर बनना चाहते हो, D2C ब्रांड स्टार्ट करना चाहते हो, और आप अगर एजेंसी भी हो जिसके D2C क्लाइंट्स है, फ्रीलांसर एजेंसी, दिस एपिसोड इज फॉर श्योर फॉर यू. अर्जुन वैद्या एक ऐसे शख्स है जिन्होंने 1000+ D2C फाउंडर्स को मेंटोर किया है पर्सनली. वो उन्होंने 100+ कंपनीज में इन्वेस्ट किया है एंड वो खुद एक बहुत बड़े सक्सेसफुल D2C फाउंडर रह चुके हैं. एंड उन्होंने अपनी कंपनी 100 करोड़ से भी ज़्यादा में एग्जिट की थी उनकी कंपनी, विच इज़ इंडियाज़ फर्स्ट एवर एंड मोस्ट आई वुड से सक्सेसफुल D2C एग्जिट. मैं इस एपिसोड के बारे में और ज़्यादा कुछ नहीं बताऊँगा, आप बस इस एपिसोड को देखिए बिकॉज अर्जुन वैद्या को सब लोग जानते हैं. इस एपिसोड में जो उन्होंने चीज़ें शेयर की है इट्स वेरी डिफरेंट. रेयरली उन्होंने वैसी चीज़ें उनके पॉडकास्ट में शेयर की. इट्स मोर लाइक अ मास्टरमाइंड. तो इसको ज़रूर देखिएगा एंड आई एम श्योर यू आर गोइंग टू लव इट. So finally, the king of D2C is with me. Thank you so much, Arjun, for giving me the time and opportunity to host you. जिस भी इवेंट पे जाता हूँ मैं, Arjun Vaidya is the first featured keynote speaker and we have met 3-4 times. And I would like to say really on camera as well, as मैंने पहले भी बोला है, you are one of the kindest soul I have ever met in the industry, honestly.
Thank you so much, Piyush, and thank you कि आपने इतना follow up किया and हम आज बैठे हैं मेरे घर में और ये show record कर रहे हैं. तो I'm excited to be part of this conversation with you. I think that before we start the conversation, I wanted to tell your listeners that one thing I sort of learnt from this interaction with you was something I stand for and the importance of persisting for what you want. तो आपने पहले मुझे बताया था कि Arjun, I want to have this show and whatever happens, I want you to be the first person on this show. And 3-4-5 बार आपने follow up किया था. And look, I've just had a baby and obviously things are a bit busy, so I couldn't do it earlier. But the fact that you kept telling me, no, whenever you want, I'll make it happen. I think that's a hallmark of someone who's, that's a hallmark of any good entrepreneur, any good founder, that आसानी से कुछ मिलता नहीं है और हमें बहुत fight करना पड़ता है. But eventually मिल जाता है. With struggle, hard work, persistence and effort, you get what you want eventually.
Absolutely. You know, this is something I'm learning from seniors like you, because I have been following you on LinkedIn since around early 2020, early lockdown. I've seen your persistency as well. And this is something, you know, we learn from seniors like you. So this is something you are spreading to the juniors. So thank you to you as well. And thank you for your kind words. I really appreciate coming from you. So yeah, let's get it started. सबसे पहले तो I like to know, because you have been invested in 100+ companies, more of D2C में है, आपने invest किए हैं. You have friend circle in D2C as well. And you started in October 2016 as per your story. तो 2016 में आपने start किया था और अभी 2023, almost 2024 है. What is the difference you can see in D2C world in 2016 and 2023? Because now it's Shark Tank boom हुआ 2021 में. Now there are many D2C startups. It's mainstream more of. But when you started, it was not mainstream. काफ़ी कम लोग कर रहे थे. And you were one of the pioneers since then. So
I would say कि बहुत changes हुए हैं. तो 2016 में actually D2C was not even a term. It had just come to India. वो समय जब हम investors के साथ बात भी करते थे 2017 में, तो हम कहते थे कि हम e-commerce only brand है, हम online बेचते हैं. And people were saying कि online brands बनते नहीं है. Brands offline बनते हैं, GT distribution से बनते हैं, modern trade distribution से बनते हैं. If you don't have offline presence, you can't build a brand, right? एंड वो समय से ये समय में बहुत फर्क आया है. There's been lots of difference, lots of changes, lots of growth in the market as well. तो अभी e-commerce is mainstream, D2C is mainstream, but वो समय there were not even like a handful of founders that we could talk to or engage with or have a conversation with. So I think the big change or the big growth started happening in 2018, 2019, but जो watershed moment था, जो black swan moment था, वो COVID था, right? After COVID, lots of customers who had never shopped online, जैसे मेरे parents हैं, right? My dad, my mom, they had never bought anything online. Hundreds of thousands of these consumers came online, started buying online. अभी COVID में तो सब कुछ online गया था. If you think about 2020, 2021, everything was online. And then in 2022, offline opened, right? And so obviously हजारों customers वापस offline गए, but that behavior change, that habit creation कि online का जो convenience मिलता है, जो आसानी मिलती है, जो चॉइस मिलता है, सब कुछ आपके स्क्रीन के सामने है, राइट? ऑल द प्रोडक्ट्स, इन्फिनिट स्क्रॉल. दैट बिहेवियर चेंज हैज रिजल्टेड इन द मैसिव ग्रोथ ऑफ आवर इंडस्ट्री. अभी बहुत से कस्टमर्स के बारे में मैंने बात किया, बट बहुत से फाउंडर्स भी D2C में स्टार्ट कर रहे हैं. जैसे हम अभी ग्रोथ स्कूल पे हमारा कोहॉर्ट चलाते हैं, राइट? विद मोर देन 1000 फाउंडर्स हैव टेकन दिस कोहॉर्ट. एवरी डे आई एम सीइंग फाउंडर्स सी और सीक इंस्पिरेशन from brands like Dr. Vaidya's or Boat or Mamaearth or Sugar or Wow and say that we also want to start, right? So I have met more than 100 entrepreneurs who have started doing Ayurveda or Ayurveda based products online after the Dr. Vaidya story. So I think this last 2 or 3 years has been very crucial for the growth of D2C and will continue to grow.
Absolutely.
The other great part I'll tell you about D2C में ये niche products, right? Smaller sort of use case products, जैसे हम कोई premium personal care product के बारे में बात करते हैं, और an ingredient based personal care product, we talk about caffeine based cosmetics, हम caffeine etc. अभी अगर आप offline distribute करने वाले हो ये product, right? तो एक एरिया में 100 कस्टमर्स रहेंगे, 1000 कस्टमर्स रहेंगे एक शहर में. बट अगर आप 50 स्टोर्स में डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन करेंगे तो एक्चुअली सेल्स वेलोसिटी पर स्टोर विल नॉट बी हाई. But if you do it online, you take the aggregate demand of the nation, you can actually build 100 crore plus businesses in niche spaces as well. And that's again the benefit of D2C. So you have very specific brands, whether it's kids personal care, or it's oversized teas, or it's Gen Z cosmetics. All of these brands are also able to build their products and their business using the power of digital. And that's the beautiful part of D2C.
No, absolutely. And D2C, so, there are a lot of new unique brands are coming, like Soul Store. There were no unique T-shirts पहले, अगर normal T-shirts मिलते थे.
अभी तो norm हो गया है.
अब तो norm हो गया कि Soul Store है, और भी बहुत सारे Shark Tank में भी startups आ रहे हैं. Like coffee brand तो पहले Nescafe वगैरह ही चलते थे, brew जो हम किराने शॉप से लेते थे, ऐड आती. Now it's Rage Coffee, Sleepy Owl, a lot of brands. And Ayurveda में Dr. Vaidya's of course since 150 years, but online के बाद lot of boom आया. बट इसमें एक चीज़ ये भी होती है अर्जुन, अभी जो फाउंडर्स बनना चाहते हैं जो अर्ली स्टेज में, वो बोलते हैं यार मैं समझो स्किन केयर में आ रहा हूँ, 100-200 स्किन केयर ब्रांड पहले से ही बने पड़े, या आयुर्वेदा में आपने बोला था 100+ गुड ब्रांड्स आउट देयर. सो हाउ डू यू डिस्टिंग्विश? और ऑल्सो उसके पहले आई लाइक टू आस्क, इज दिस स्टिल अ राइट टाइम टू गेट इनटू D2C बिकॉज एड कॉस्ट आर गोइंग अप and it's almost 2024 and investments.
Look, I would say it is a different time. Okay. And I feel like India एक brand starved nation है. इंडिया में कम brands है और customers है और aspiration है, youngest population, largest middle class है. तो brands बनाना and brand से growth लाना, I mean the sort of opportunity is infinite, right? But समय अलग है. There is much more competition than there was in 2016. Ads are much more expensive given that there is competition. Customer is much more picky. Customer को अभी समझ रहा है what is a good delivery experience? What does Amazon offer me? Returns कैसे होने चाहिए? Website कैसे दिखने चाहिए? Products, packaging, how good should it be, right? तो customers are also more picky. तो I'm saying कि ये environment में, this environment, you will have to get your basics right. You don't have 1 year to figure out how to build a brand. You have 6 weeks to 12 weeks at max to understand what a good website is, how to make it conversion friendly, how to run ads, how to run your warehouse, how to do delivery on time, how to manage your returns, how to do retention. These are all things that took me 1 year to learn in 2017, 2018. Today, a D2C founder doesn't have so much time to learn. But yes, the market is at least 3-4 times the market pre-COVID, right? Size of market, number of customers, availability of demand. There are 200 million people shopping online. 3 years ago, that number was 80 million people, right? So there is huge amount of demand, but the way business needs to be built, business कैसे बनाना है, कैसे business के बारे में कैसे सोचना है, वो थोड़ा अलग है अभी.
परफेक्ट. एंड अभी जैसे आपने बोला कि ब्रांड्स तो बड़े, साथ में हमारा मार्केट कैप भी बढ़ा. इफ देयर वर लेट्स से 50 मिलियन कस्टमर्स, नाउ इट्स ऑलमोस्ट 200 मिलियन कस्टमर्स. सो along with brands, customer भी बढ़ा, and we can serve everyone now. Every brand can serve everyone. One question is like Arjun Vaidya started in 2016. What if Arjun Vaidya has to start in 2023 October or now September? We are shooting this episode. What पहले 3 स्टेप आप कौन से लोगे अगर आपको अभी सब स्क्रैच से स्टार्ट करना है?
तो I think there are 3 major steps to start a D2C brand, right? पहले product क्या है, right? And you have to ask yourself 3 questions. जब आप product के बारे में सोच रहे हो और niche development के बारे में सोच रहे हो, right? तो what is the problem? What is my solution? And why do I have a right to win? Right? तो what is the problem? What is my solution? तो बहुत problems है और बहुत solutions भी है, right? Like sending Chandrayaan to the moon, for example. The problem was that there have not been enough countries who have gone and researched on the moon. So let's develop a sort of spaceship or a shuttle to go to the moon. But I have no right to win. I'm not an aeronautical engineer. I'm not an aerospace engineer. I don't know how to do that, right? But in Ayurveda, I had a right to win. So first is figure out what your product is. 2, figure out what your brand is. And brand doesn't mean just logo. Brand doesn't mean just name of company. Brand means qualities, tonality, which part of the market you will operate, what's the white space, who are the customers, what's the TG, how are you going to cater to them, how are you going to solve the problem. So the third and sort of most important thing is the storefront, right? So offline mein hamara store is your storefront. Online your website is your storefront. So when you're starting, you have to develop this storefront in a very conversion friendly manner. Develop an e-commerce friendly website to get started. इसके आगे तो बहुत steps है. जैसे customer acquisition करना होगा, marketing करना होगा, फिर warehouse develop करना होगा, orders dispatch करने होंगे, orders के बाद customer के साथ retention का काम करना होगा. But the first 3 steps would be product, brand and website as an acquisition channel.
Perfect. But what if let's say कि कोई clothing brand है, t-shirts. How do you figure out problem in that? Let's say किसी का पहले से traditional manufacturing in t-shirts or pants or let's say blazers. How do you find the problem? How do you distinguish yourself?
I'll come to you and I'll say there are lots of t-shirts in the market, but what would you wish for in a t-shirt, right? Would you wish for, now people are moving to a minimalistic clothing, right? So they are saying that I don't mind wearing, like you're wearing a plain black t-shirt. I'm wearing a plain black t-shirt with my brand logo on it. But there are nuances in the plain black t-shirt. What's the quality of cotton being used? How comfortable is it? How durable is it? How stretchy is the fabric? How often can it be used? Does it have some heat tech that makes you feel cooler in the heat? Does it have some anti-sweat technology? Does it have some anti-odor technology so I can wear it for 12 hours? So is there a problem? T-shirts, while it may be a nuanced market, there's a company called March Tea that sells just plain t-shirts. But उनका quality इतना elevated है कि लोगों 1300-1200 रुपए एक plain t-shirt के लिए pay करते हैं because the quality is so good and you're wearing the t-shirt every day, right? So even in a market that seems crowded, there is an ability to find a niche.
No, that's absolutely perfect. Like I also read the post from the March, his founder. He made around 8 some crores in March, as far as I remember, in a day I think. Supima cotton. So it's like problem ढूंढो, product के अंदर भी problem क्या जैसे पसीना आता है or anything about that. That's interesting. So the next thing would be, let's say आपने तब invest, let's say now you want to start again, and would you go for investment first or you go for bootstrap?
No, I think that ये मेरा feedback सब D2C founders के साथ है कि PMF or initial set of 1,000 customers in an online business is not so tough, right? So my advice to D2C founders always is that find your customers, get some sales, understand the problems and then raise money. तो जैसे हमने किया था डॉक्टर वैद्य में, हमने 2 साल बूटस्ट्रैप किया था, हम 50 ऑर्डर्स पर डे तक पहुंचे. जब हमें श्योरिटी था कि यहाँ से आगे कैसे जाना है, तब हमने पैसा रेज किया. तो यू कैन गो इन द मार्केट इन अ वेरी लिमिटेड अमाउंट ऑफ कैपिटल, पुट अप अ वेबसाइट, गेट अ फर्स्ट बैच ऑफ प्रोडक्ट्स एट अ लो MOQ एंड सेल द प्रोडक्ट्स. ऑफलाइन में क्या इशू है कि अगर आपको 100 स्टोर्स 200 स्टोर्स में भी डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन करना होता है और आपको 10 यूनिट्स भी डालने होते हैं, तो आपको 3,000-4,000 यूनिट्स ऑफ प्रोडक्ट लेना होगा. ऑनलाइन में यू कैन स्टार्ट विद 500,000 यूनिट्स एंड जस्ट टेस्ट द मार्केट, अंडरस्टैंड द कस्टमर से क्या फीडबैक आ रहा है. उनके साथ ग्रेट पार्ट अबाउट D2C इज कि आपके पास नेम्स, ईमेल एड्रेसेस, फोन नंबर्स, एड्रेसेस एंड परचेस पैटर्न है. तो आप कस्टमर को 3 महीने बाद, 3 हफ्ते बाद, 1 हफ्ते बाद कॉल करके प्रोडक्ट का फीडबैक ले सकते हो कि इज माई प्रोडक्ट ओके, डू यू नीड सम इटरेशंस इन माई प्रोडक्ट, कैन आई डू समथिंग बेटर विद माई प्रोडक्ट. दैट्स द ब्यूटी ऑफ एन ऑनलाइन बिजनेस व्हिच इज नॉट देयर इन ऑफलाइन बिजनेसेस.
No, absolutely. It's like less investment. We can test in 500 stock, 500 products or 1000 products. But how, you said to get first 1000 customers. उसके बाद फिर how would you get first 1000 customers if you started today?
तो पहले तो आपको वेबसाइट लॉन्च करना है. जब आप वेबसाइट लॉन्च करते हो तो आपको मार्केटिंग स्टार्ट करना होगा. यू हैव टू डू सम फेसबुक एंड गूगल एडवर्टाइजिंग. विद दिस आई थिंक मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट इज कंटेंट भी करना होगा. ऑर्गेनिक कंटेंट फंड भी बनाना होगा ताकि कस्टमर्स आपके प्रोडक्ट के बारे में भी जाने, आपके ब्रांड के बारे में भी जाने. बिकॉज टुडे इफ यू सी साइमन सिनेक्स सॉर्ट ऑफ गोल्डन सर्कल, इट वाज व्हाट एंड इट वाज हाउ. नाउ कस्टमर्स आर बाइंग योर ब्रांड फॉर व्हाई. So customers need to know what is your brand, what does it stand for. So if you are able to run these ads and you're able to explain your brand story, then you will get a funnel of customers who will come to your website, and from that funnel you'll get some who convert and buy your product. Then from their feedback, their referrals, them talking about your brand plus what they tell you can improve in your product, that's how you go along in your journey.
No, absolutely. इसमें और एक चीज़ आती है, you know, people nowadays when they start a D2C brand or maybe they raise funds, they invest most of the amount, which I have seen, you can correct me, on performance marketing only, just to acquire customers. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, look, I have done a video about this very recently. तो 2017-18 में जब competition कम था, तो you could get by doing just performance marketing because honestly, Ayurveda, online, Facebook advertising, Instagram advertising, there were not so many brands doing it, right? So when I was doing it and someone came online and they wanted to buy an Ayurvedic product, Dr. Vaidya was the only brand they could buy, so they bought Dr. Vaidya and that was okay. So I got by doing only performance marketing. Today, it's a very different environment. It's a very different world because Dr. Vaidya के जैसे 50, 60, 70, 100 brands हैं जो advertise कर रहे हैं. Customer is also confused कि I'm getting so many ads, but which is the right brand to buy? This is where brand comes in. So what I tell founders today is, in the clutter, in the competitive environment, your brand has to stand out. For your brand to stand out, you have to do brand. And the way to do brand is you allocate a certain portion or percentage of your marketing budget on a monthly basis towards brand. What is brand? Brand is content, brand is social media, brand is influencers, brand is video creation. Brand is anything that doesn't lead to direct amount of traffic to your website or sales, but develops this perception in the mind of the customer about what is this company about, what is this ethos of this company, etc. And so I believe that doing this brand expense consistently, not एक महीना किया फिर दूसरा महीना बंद किया फिर 3 महीने बाद स्टार्ट किया, एक जैसे बूस्ट और एक बर्स्ट में आपने एक सेलिब्रिटी के साथ कुछ किया, एक बड़े इन्फ्लुएंसर के साथ किया और फिर 6 महीने के बाद कुछ नहीं किया. नहीं, brand has to be consistent messaging, and if you do it for a 6 to 9 month period consistently at the same percentage of your marketing budget, and when I mean percentage, I mean today your marketing budget is 100 rupees. If you allocate 20 rupees to brand, when your marketing budget goes to 120 rupees, you have to allocate 20%. But that's not 20 rupees, that's 24 rupees. So as your budget increases, your percentage of brand spend remains the same, but the amount of absolute increases. If you're able to do this consistently, right, then आपके performance marketing की efficiency भी increase हो जाएगी. Because when the customer sees your brand ad on Facebook or Instagram or Google or YouTube, and they have seen your brand before, कभी कोई influencer के page पे, कि कभी कोई video पे आपके brand के बारे में customer ने कुछ information ली है, so when they see that ad, they have more affinity to click through the ad, the efficiency of the ads increases, and the ROAS eventually of the business also increases. So that's my view on performance and brand.
No, absolutely. I seen your post, वो आपने जो video डाला था, and I read some comments as well कि lot of people are now shifting to brands. पहले सिर्फ performance marketing agency hire करो and you know उनके कनपट्टी पे गन रख लो कि result क्यों नहीं आ रहा है. But you said कि brand भी जरूरी है, brand build करना. I think but brand में you know there are a lot of founders as well coming in. So how do you think founder story plays a role when it comes to D2C, like starting a podcast or maybe you know the Bella Vita guy, if you know, he comes, उनके ad वो खुद ही बनाते हैं, he do street interviews. Also this what is the brand called, Bombay Shaving Company, Shantanu, he runs a podcast show. How do you think founders roles plays into कि जब वो brand की बारी आती है उनको आना चाहिए बीच में?
Before I say or before I answer this question, I will say कि founder को brand के सामने आना or founder representing the brand is not for everyone. So there are some founders who are not okay to be publicly visible, and there are some founders that are. If you are able to be publicly visible, it's a great thing to do and it helps your brand. Why? Because in the early stages, जब company छोटी है, तो आपके पास brand ambassador का पैसा ही नहीं है. So you become the brand ambassador. I used to appear in the asthma ads for Dr. Vaidya because I was cured of asthma. using my grandfather's formulation. So it was the most credible story. It allows a customer to have a relate with your brand that's more than just your products, right? So if it's possible for a founder to do at an early stage for a D2C brand, at least where the customer is buying into an ethos, it's very good, but it's not for everyone. हर founder नहीं है जो front facing हो सकता है. Some people don't have it in their personality. Like if I look at my experience with Dr. Vaidya's, I was okay to be front facing, I was okay to have those conversations, I was okay to talk in front of the camera. Trisha was not. And that was also okay. It's not like she wasn't a great founder. It's just that was not for her, right? So if you can find someone to be front facing, that's great.
That's a perfect answer. कि it's not necessary, but अगर आप कर सकते हो तो would be great. Perfect. So what are some marketing trends you see now we should catch on, like because you invested in many companies, 100+ companies in terms of D2C?
I will say one very important thesis that I have on marketing, right? There is campaigns. You do a Diwali campaign, you do a New Year's campaign, you do a festive campaign, you do a Rakhi campaign. There are campaigns, right? But there is also your day-to-day replicable content. So let's say, for example, you're doing a Diwali campaign, you'll get a big influencer, you'll get a big celebrity, you'll do some expensive video production. But day-to-day, जो reel आपके Instagram page पे जा रहा है, कि जो post जा रहा है, that should be exciting, value-adding and replicable. That means that you don't have to get an influencer every time you're putting content on your page. But the influencer content can exist, but जो आप day-to-day कर रहे हो, that should be easily doable by your team and still adding value. So other than big campaigns, the company should also have a marketing strategy that generates eyeballs that doesn't cost a lot of money. And a lot of people say कि हमारे पास marketing brand building का पैसा नहीं है. To create value adding content using YouTube or Instagram or Reels does not take a lot of money. And so each brand should think like a content creator and have a strategy to be able to create this content that is replicable, that's evergreen, that's there every second day on their page, so that they don't need a lot of money to keep doing this content, keep generating the awareness for the brand.
So do you think, like as you mentioned, कि रोज content जाना चाहिए with influencer as well. So do you think we should hire a specific, let's say, a good face influencer जिसके millions में subscribers है, or maybe someone who is good on camera but not influential like him in the initial days?
Yeah, look, I think that you have to be very picky about who you choose. The person has to resonate with your customers and your brand. But picking big faces is not the answer to your problems. It's a catalyst. When you get a celebrity brand ambassador on, the celebrity cannot take you from 0 to 1. Celebrity can take you from 5 to 10. But that 0 to 5 journey or that 0 to 1 journey has to be done by the brand. And so sometimes I feel like founders believe that if there is someone lot of following who talks about my brand, हो जाएगा sales. नहीं होता है. Because customers have also become savvier, smarter. They understand the brand has paid this person to talk about the brand, right? So if you really want to figure this out, pick people who really resonate with your brand, to understand your brand, but also use organic content, use user-generated content, use your customers' real testimonials. That generates lots of authenticity to your brand as well.
Oh, perfect. But in this case also, I want to ask you one thing, कि D2C brand अपने website बताया, but there is marketplaces like Amazon, Myntra, Flipkart, and now for Blinkit as well, these websites for small coffee products. So what do you think? We should first, let's say हमने शुरू किया, हमारे पास पैसे let's say 10 लाख है, तो हम लोग पहले Amazon पे focus करें, marketplaces पे, या हम लोग website पे focus करें, like कोई D2C founder हो.
So I'm actually going to write about this tomorrow on LinkedIn as well. So look, I think जब हम चलाते थे business, Dr. Vaidya's, तो there was this feeling कि website का जो sale है, that's more value adding, because the brand has done the effort to get the customer, और जो data है वो company के पास है. अभी जब CAC बढ़ रहा है, तो actually investors and founders are looking for profitable channels and profitable business. So the great part about marketplaces, listing का कोई पैसा नहीं जाता है. So what I tell founders today is the great part about digital businesses, you get the insight from the customer very quickly. The feedback loop is short through data. So what do I mean by that? I mean, अगर आप आपके वेबसाइट और Amazon साथ साथ चलाते हैं, and that's what I recommend to founders, pick 2-3 marketplaces which are relevant for your brand and your website, and start on all. 2 महीने बाद, 6 हफ्ते बाद, 8 हफ्ते बाद, आपको डेटा से पता चलेगा कि कस्टमर को आपका प्रोडक्ट कहाँ से खरीदना है. How? What do I mean by this? I mean that the velocity of sales or the amount of product that sells plus the ROAS or the return on ad spend, the return on marketing spend will tell you where the customer wants to buy a product. If there is higher sell-through and higher ROS on your website than marketplace, the customer is comfortable buying on your website. But if Amazon is doing 70-80% of your sales and your ROS is 2x or 3x on Amazon, it's clear that you are a category or a kind of product that the customer today wants to buy on Amazon. Will that change? Can that change as your brand trust grows? Yes, maybe it can, or maybe it can't. We don't know the answer. But today, given the data and studying this data tells you about customer affinity.
So it would be more of like omni-channel. We should present on all. Then we फिर बाद में decide करना है कि इस यहाँ पे data क्या है.
Because the cost of listing on marketplace is zero. There is no cost to list your product on marketplace.
No, काफी brands को ये भी issue होता है कि they are taking a lot of commissions in between and you know.
Think about it, right? बहुत लोग बोलते हैं कि marketplace बहुत commission लेता है, it's not fair, etc. all of that. But जो marketplace commission लेता है, that is usually equal to, if not less than your customer acquisition cost to bring new customers to your website. And so the marketplace is doing the effort to bring the customer, तो कुछ तो देना होगा, right? So I think generally saying marketplaces charge a lot of commission without putting numbers to it to understand the CAC versus the commission is not fair. Yes, then when you see that your CAC is 20%, the marketplace is charging you 50% commission, then there's a problem. But if your CAC is 50%, the marketplace is charging you 25% commission, then clearly the economics can look better here. Yes, there's value in bringing customers to your website, but it has to be seen apples to apples with numbers to be able to get the answer.
No, absolutely. Like we are saving cost per acquisition यहाँ पे बच रहा है and we can invest there. तो omni channel की बात की जाए तो offline is also part of omni channel if I'm not wrong. So if you remember, as I'm from Nashik, you already know. I was in the medical store and buying something and I saw your brand G-Mist cocktail. आपने उसमें invest किया है and I sent you the picture. And again I saw around on airport as well and same in Noida. Sorry, not on airport, in Noida as well. So you offline भी आपके brands जा रहे हैं. So do you think कब जाना चाहिए हमको offline? Let's say what's the right time to go offline?
I think it's a very good question, Piyush. I'll answer this question by saying that I believe that for a D2C brand, the right time to go offline is once you get some amount of product market fit, once you get some amount of customers who are buying your product consistently. Why? Because if you try to push a product to offline, the margin structure, the listing fees, the sell-through, the velocity will be lower, and so the retailer will actually not want you in the store. Your terms of trade will be a little bit difficult. Having said that, if, let's say for example, Jimmy's Cocktails, the example you gave, becomes a big success in the offline channel or in the online channel, and then customers go and demand Jimmy's Cocktails in offline stores, and then Jimmy's Cocktails goes to those offline stores and tries to buy the product or tries to use the product, the ball game is completely different, right? And so the terms of trade, the margin, the enthusiasm, the excitement of the retailer to push your product, stock your product is very different. So the best time I feel for D2C brands to go offline is once they have some product market fit, whether that's 1 crore, 2 crore, 5 crore in revenue, that each founder can take a call, but that's the right time according to me.
But in offline also I have एक सवाल ये भी, let's say सोल स्टोर, वो ऑफलाइन गया बट खुद का अलग स्टोर बना दिया, सो वो रेकमेंड आप करोगे या लाइक जिमिस्ट कॉकटेल गो टू मेडिकल स्टोर्स और गो टू शॉप्स?
It depends brand to brand. Some brands, like it makes sense to go in GT distribution, some brands it makes sense to go in MT distribution, some brands need an experience store. An experience store could be an EBO or an exclusive brand outlet like Soul Store has done. Some brands do shop in shop in larger outlets as well. So honestly, it really depends on what your brand is, what the objective is, what the customer wants. Now, products which have lots of loyal following or brands which have lots of loyal following, or products which need a lot of explanation may go the EBO route. Products which are easy to understand, easy to explain, need mass reach may go the GT route, right? So it depends on the objective you want, what your brand wants to achieve in the offline channel to take your call on which part of the offline channel you choose.
Perfect. Let's say we want to go in general stores, medical. So किसी brand को let's say अच्छे sales आ रहे हैं and उन्होंने बोला चलो हम try करते हैं. So what's the smartest way to go offline for a D2C brand?
I think the smartest way to go offline would be to start with the catchment market. Start with a small market. जैसे हमने बॉम्बे में start की थी. Obviously our offline was not a success at that time in 2016, but we started with Bombay as a market. We said we'll go to all parts of Bombay, different types of stores. We'll have a team in Bombay. We'll learn from here and then we'll go to other markets. So being in 10 markets on day one and not being able to control the markets, control the sales team, control the retailer, control the feedback, and then getting all your products returned in 3 months is a big disaster, right? And so I think that's the way I would suggest that D2C brands do their what's called GTM, go to market, or pilot entry into a market. Start with one, understand what's working, what's not working, fix it, and then go to more markets.
So how do we go? Like, you know, you go by yourself as a founder or send some teammates, or you hire an agency जो होती है बीच में, वो लोग करेंगे. Like, how do you do that?
I think offline is best done with in-house teams. So start obviously with the founder going and selling the product. And I remember I recently met one of my personal portfolio companies, Tags Foods, Anish. And I said, let's catch up in BKC at my office. And he said, okay, I'm okay to catch up in BKC, but will you come and walk the market with me? I'm doing BKC market today, and I'm going to be selling the products myself. From that, he understood what the retailer wanted, what the problem was, what the other products were in the market, why a retailer was choosing X product of his portfolio, not Y product. And that feedback is invaluable. So while you eventually hire teams and you keep teams, I think founders staying close to the ground, that's what I learned from the founder of Purple, Manish Taneja. Founder staying close to the ground, or founder ko pata chalna chahiye ki exactly customer ko kya chahiye. And so even as a unicorn company, he does 30 to 50 customer calls every month.
Wow, that's crazy. That's a dedication कि founder को भी ground की खबर होनी चाहिए क्या चल रहा है. So offline में और एक बहुत main channel ये है कि Bigbazaar, D-mart, ये यहाँ से तो bulk में sale आते हैं. So यहाँ पे कैसे जा सकते हैं? Let's say किसी D2C brand को D-mart में घुसना है या Bigbazaar में.
So you asked this question on large format retailers like D-mart and Bigbazaar, etc., all of that. And as I answered earlier, I think once your brand is known, and once your brand has PMF, and once your brand actually has demand in the retail stores, I think that's the right time to go, because the big thing about these larger retailers is obviously it's part of their business model, and I don't blame them for doing it because they have high fixed costs of running the store, but there's this thing called listing fee and marketing fee. And as your brand is lesser known, the listing fee, the marketing fee, and the margin structure will always be higher, and so may make the business unviable at the early stage. But when your brand is demanded and the customer is coming to their store and asking for your product and they're not able to fulfill it, that hits a whole different type of conversation, right? And so I think that if you think about the right time to enter, I would say once your product is being demanded in these kind of stores, that's the right time to sort of
So how do you create that demand? वो demand हम create कैसे करें? ऐसी एक क्या चीज़ है जो कुछ founders miss कर जाते हैं और कुछ D2C brand करते हैं और उनका demand create हो जाता है?
Really, creation of demand is finding the right problem to solve from the customer, and when you launch a product and you see the customer feedback, iterating to really create that deep problem and solve that real need for the customer. And I think, once you are in the market and you understand what's working and not working in your product, and you iterate and you get better and better, that's the sort of secret sauce to creating beautiful products that really change customers' lives or add value to customers' lives. At the end of the day, a customer will talk, get excited, and be sort of interested in your brand only when you're adding tremendous value to them.
So now let's say the brand is growing and it's scaling. Do you think taking investment is the right choice, या खुद ही आप bootstrap करते जाओ?
No, Piyush, मैं investor हूँ, right? And strangely, there have been lots of companies in the last 2 years that I have said कि investment मत लेना. So I will say investment is a great catalyst. It's something I do professionally as well, so obviously I'll promote it. But there are some businesses that don't need investment. There are some businesses that are better run bootstrap. There are some businesses that are better run family run without raising money, because investment is great. It gives you a partner. But the other problem with investments is a treadmill. If I have put money in your business today, I want you to be running at 9 kilometers an hour or 12 kilometers an hour so that I can get my money multiplied into a certain factor that I can also get my exit. See, as an investor, जब आप पैसा लेते हो किसी से, तो it's your fiduciary responsibility to give them back their money and more over a period of time. And so if you're doing that, you have to take certain decisions to get certain growth or profitability that allows the investor to get the return. It was great for me. It allowed me to get from 50 lakhs a month to 8 CR a month in Dr. Vaidya's. But it may not be the best thing for my dad, who's run a business bootstrapped and debt-free for the last 35, 40 years. He may not want an investor. He may not want to go at that pace. He's happy at the pace he's going, and he's doing something that he enjoys doing. So I would say investment is a great catalyst, but it's not for every founder. And identifying that, understanding why you need the investment, what you need the investment for, what you'll do with the money, and not just raising money for a Your Story article or an Economic Times article or a feature on Inc for E2. Raising money for the right reasons is very important. And only once you know why you need the money and you know what you're going to do with the money is the right time for you to look at raising money.
No, absolutely. That coming from an investor who has invested in 100 plus companies means a lot. कि बहुत guidance मिलेगा लोगों को. But इसमें question ये भी, let's say now people are listening to you and they want investment from Arjun Vaidya, V3 Ventures. So what are the 3 things you look in a D2C company? Let's take D2C company as an example.
Yeah, I would say any company, right? Because I
yeah.
don't only invest in D2C or consumer products. I invest across the consumer landscape and other spaces as well. 3 चीजें हम देखते हैं. पहले तो early stage companies में जब हम invest करते हैं, तो it's all starts with the founder, right? So who is that person? Why are they doing what they're doing? उनका purpose क्या है? And why do they have a right to win? Right? Will they fight through tough times with grit and resilience? That's the sort of hallmark of a great entrepreneur. Right? The second thing I would say is कि market size, right? अभी मैंने आज investment किया है, business तो ठीक कर रहा है, but यहाँ से is the market able to grow 5x, 10x, or is the market big enough that the company can grow 5x or 10x? This is really important, right? So I always give this example कि I am sugar free and I am gluten free, right? But there are not so many sugar free and gluten free consumers in India. तो sugar free और gluten free का market India में इतना बड़ा नहीं है. तो I don't invest necessarily in things that are sugar free and gluten free, right? So remove personal bias and invest in things with a big market. And last is just standard business economics and team. तो revenue, gross margin, growth velocity, customer acquisition cost, lifetime value, profitability, and then हर business एक founder से नहीं बनता है, दो founder से नहीं बनते हैं. Team is also important. So I look at three factors. Who is the founder? What is the size of market from the time of my investment? And is it available? Is growth available to the business? And what is the business economics and the team?
Perfect. That makes sense. Absolutely makes sense. इसमें और एक चीज़ ये आती है when it comes to investment, do you also see profits? कितना profit अब तक कमाया उन्होंने?
Yeah, we either देखो हर company में जब हम invest करते हैं तो they may not be profit making today, but what I look for is unit economic sustainability and a path to profitability in the short to medium term. ऐसे 10 साल में प्रॉफिट है तो इट्स वेरी टफ फॉर मी टू मेक दैट इन्वेस्टमेंट. इफ देयर पार्ट टू प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी और देयर पार्ट टू सेइंग कि अभी हम थोड़ा ग्रो करेंगे बट इवेंचुअली वी विल गेट टू दिस scale where our fixed costs will be rationalized and we'll get to profit. So we look for a path to profitability, if not profitability in an early stage. Because if a company is 6 months old, it may be tough for them to generate profit so early on.
So it depends, like कि एक साल में profit होने वाला है, they should show
but
you the
the
road.
profit mentality or the sustainable economics mentality in the founder is very important.
Also, one more thing in this is, let's say revenue is 10 crores and they are burning, let's say 2 crore additional, versus the revenue is only, let's say 25 lakhs, but they are making 1 lakh every month. Which company will you choose, considering the market size is the same?
I don't, I think there are hundreds of other factors that go into it, right? So I explained what the factors are that I look to invest. But I'll tell you the mental model that I use, because it's like, it's a random thought to say which company will you choose just by seeing two numbers, right? The company that's doing 10 crore, if at 15-20 crore they make 3 crore of profit, then it's very exciting for me. But if at 15 crore they are, or 20 crore, they are kind of breaking even and then they'll make money at 30, 40, 50 crore, then it's a problem. Because if the company at 15 crore is making 3 crore, for this 25 lakh company to make 3 crore profit will take a very long time, right? But if the case is the opposite, then I may look at the 25 lakh company because it's sustainable from day one.
So you said you will go look at multiple factors, see कितना revenue में profits कब आएंगे, and do you also invest in, let's say early stage, उसको 6 महीने हुए, revenue is doing, let's say 10 lakh, is there any revenue number also you see other than all the factors, revenue number, और वो भी देखते हो आप कि हाँ 10 लाख हो रहे हैं?
From the fund we only do sort of traction companies, so usually like at least 50-75 lakhs a month in revenue, but individually we do some pre-seed investment. But from the fund we would say at least 50-75 lakhs traction is where we'll start having the conversation.
And as let's ask as a founder, because you're the investor, and you have been founder as well who have raised fund in the past, so you have played both the roles, and बहुत rarely लोगों ने दोनों roles play किए. So as a founder, how much equity should be given to the investor?
Yeah, I would say that
in what factors, like?
Again, it's like a very general question which doesn't have an answer that's cookie cutter or playbook, and so I think founders need to think of that journey of raising capital, how many rounds they'll raise, how much equity they'll dilute, but 100% of zero is zero. So if you have 100% of a company that has no value, or you have 10% of a company that's worth 1,000 crores, obviously you know the answer of that, right? So I think founders have to be rational about safeguarding equity while still understanding that they need the capital to grow, or they need the capital to scale their business. And I think that having been on both sides of the table, I now understand the nuances of both, right? Like obviously, if a founder has 10% equity, but the company is huge, then it's fine for the founder. If they have 10% of equity and the company is still early stage, then it's a problem. So I think you have to understand what you need and then what's available from the investor, because 100% of zero, as I said, is zero.
Yeah. And आपने बहुत सारे founders से बात की, like 100+ found. आपके दोस्त भी ऐसे ही, आपने घर में एक event भी रखा था, like I think in the March or something.
For our growth school cohort,
yeah.
Correct.
And growth school also you have trained 1,000+ founders. So what is the common mistake, 1, 2 or 3 or multiple mistakes you want to highlight कि founders करते हो जाती है mistake, और what are the mistakes you did in the past जो अनजाने में हो गई and you said अगर आप आज होते तो वो mistake नहीं करते?
Yeah, I think that I'll start with maybe 2 big mistakes that I made, right? One is, यार ये startup का दुनिया बाहर से बहुत glamorous लगता है. Articles मिलते हैं, unicorns हो जाते हैं, Shark Tank पे companies आते हैं, TV पे आते हैं, ये वो whatever. But the reality is कि startups are hard work, and the best founders are able to understand it's a roller coaster ride and fight the tough times with grit and resilience. Because I can tell you, in a startup, there's more tough times than happy times, right? And so understanding this and fighting the tough times with resilience, that's really, really important. And I underestimated this when I started, right? Second thing I would say, very important point, is कि अकेले companies नहीं बनते हैं. So founders think कि I'm good at everything, and maybe you are better than people at everything, or certain things. But I think that understanding the importance of an empowered team is really important. देखो, if I work for 12-14 hours and more than that, you can't be efficient at work. And then I'm only one person. 1 into 12 is 12, or 1 into 14 is 14. But if 8 people work 8 hours a day, 8 into 8 is 64, right? So the compounding and the growth and the scalability can only happen with an empowered team. So I think these are two mistakes I made early on, which I learned as I was building my business. And that's the reason that we created V3 Ventures, right? To be able to create an investment vehicle that is run with the experience of building a company, but still invests in companies, right? Because I feel that like there is lots of advantages for being an experienced investor who's run for 15-20 years. But sometimes having been a founder and seeing that experience and seeing that journey of building the company and going through the same problems gives some different edge for us as investors at V3. And that's the reason that V3 is run by ex-founders.
Mm-hmm. And coming up with this investment thing, I want to highlight one more thing कि कभी-कभी कैसा होता है, there are difficult conversation between investors and founders, and in let's say numbers कि number ऊपर नीचे हो गए या कुछ ज़्यादा ही downfall हो रहा है. Let's consider you as a founder now. So आप deal कैसे करते थे, या शायद आपका नहीं हुआ होगा कि कैसे कर सकते हैं?
No, there are difficult conversations you have all the time. I've had difficult conversations with a lot of people, but I think there are two things I keep in mind, right? One is I would say that you have to be respectful that the person is also putting in effort. You can't just say, hey, this is wrong, you missed the plan, etc. All of that.
You mean as a founder or as an investor?
No, as an investor.
Okay.
As a founder, I think that being disrespectful to your investors causes lots of issues, and I don't think you have to sort of talk about that, because that's a whole different conversation. But as an investor also, when you're giving feedback to someone who's spending 95% of their waking hours doing something, spending 14 hours a day doing something, even if they're doing only 5 lakhs a month, you respect the fact that the person is putting a lot of effort. And so have that honest conversation respectfully. And the second thing is, show empathy. Understand that it's not easy what the founder is doing, and still get your honest feedback across. The thing I would say is that if you hide from the tough conversation, you don't have the tough conversation, you do it later when the problem is too big, that causes more problems.
Okay, so initially करना चाहिए tough conversation. But इसमें let's say कोई founder ऐसे situation में है जहाँ पे decision making की बात आती है. Investor is saying do X, founder is saying let's do Y. So उस time पे क्या करना चाहिए as a founder?
I think as a founder, forget the investor, right? As a founder, you'll get lots of feedback from partners, vendors, friends, family, investors, angels, people who like your brand, customers, etc. All of that. Your job as a founder is to take in all the feedback like a sponge. So take in from one ear, use your brain to process, and then take out only what's relevant to you. Because you'll get conflicting feedback as well, so you have to figure out what to do. So take it all in, listen to all of it, process in your mind, and then take out only what's relevant for you to action.
But this is what I heard. Of course, मैंने experience नहीं किया, correct me. कि कभी-कभी some investors they forced to take certain decisions in brand. उस time पे क्या करें? और उसके बाद equity भी ज़्यादा let's say investor के पास.
Look, I think you have to understand the situation specifically. If the investor has a veto or there is some big decision being taken, the investor doesn't agree, then you have to sit down and have that conversation. Explain yourself, because look, investors are on the same side of the table as you. Everybody wants to create more value. If you are creating value, so is the investor getting value as well, as per their shareholding, right? So I think it's very important to have all the stakeholders on the same page aligned, and if they're not, have that conversation to bring them on the same page, explain yourself and have that conversation rather than saying, hey, this is my view, I'm going to do it, I don't care what you're saying, right? Okay, I take your view, this is why I think what I'm saying is better, I understand what you're saying, and be open to that conversation.
Perfect. Last two questions are this. One is, let's say, choosing the investor. Investment कितना उठाना तो है, कब उठाना है, but who should be our investor? Someone, our relative or friends, or a big VC, or of course V3 Ventures जैसे लोग जैसे, because you are kind of a mentor plus investor, which I have seen and you also mentioned. So what kind of investor should we get and how?
I had a founder tell me this conversation, and I found it very interesting. He said, look, investment is not a fling. Mm-hmm. It's at least a long-term relationship, if not a marriage. And so when you choose an investor, be as picky as you are when you're choosing your life partner, because at least once a month, you will have to meet this person for 5 to 7 years. So you have to be okay to meet this person 60, 70, 80 times over the next 5 to 7 years and have lunch with them every single month and have that conversation, right? So the vibe match has to be there. The alignment of goals has to be there. And that person has to also believe in your vision and your goal and has to be on your team, right? And has to be a catalyst, a supporter. I always believe that as an investor, I'm not the captain of the ship. I'm the guy who helps the captain who's steering the ship put up the sails when there's a stormy night, right? Or a stormy day. And so I think that this thought process of vibe match is very important when you're choosing an investor. And if you get it wrong, it's a big, big, big challenge because you're sitting together with someone for the next 5 years who you don't agree with or who doesn't agree with you.
So more of its background check also, like
both ways. Huh? There's no shame in a founder doing a background check on an investor as well.
Okay.
And the greatest part about when I was sort of signing up with this new role with V3 Ventures and I was speaking to the folks at World Invest and they said, hey Arjun, we've done our background checks on you. Why don't you do your background checks on us? And that humility to have that conversation for an investor is very important. But I advise founders to speak to other founders who that investor has invested in, get a background check, get a ref check. There's no harm, there's no shame in doing it. It's like, for example, there is no shame in as a founder pitching your own business to a person who's come into an interview, right? Because at the early stage, they also have to believe in your vision and want to. So I used to pitch my business. The person who had come for the interview was pitching themselves, but I was also pitch my vision to them. So there's no shame in doing that.
So it's like both ways. जो investor कर रहा है वो founder को भी करना है.
Absolutely.
And one thing other than that, वो bus question तो है आपको बहुत लोगों ने पूछा. I'll also ask it. You took the exit and it was one of the first and most successful D2C exit ever. तो अभी you recommend कि exit करना चाहिए startups ने after let's say 5-10 years and when they should do or not and how is your feeling after that? Like, do you think it was a great decision for you?
देखो पीयूष, I think exit बहुत personal conversation है, बहुत personal बात है. If there was you in my place at Dr. Vaidya's at that time taking the decision of the exit, maybe you wouldn't have taken the decision. But for us at that time, given where the business was and where the business was going, where we saw the future being offline and we didn't know offline as much and online हमने बहुत already growth किया था, 5,000 orders per day तक पहुंचे थे, 2 million plus customers थे, 20 lakh plus customers थे. So at that point, it seemed like the right decision for us. Looking back, I have no regrets in any decision I made. And I think we built a great brand and that brand is being taken forward by good people. On exit specifically, should a founder take an exit or not? पहले तो exit के बारे में सोचो ही मत. अच्छा business बनाओ, अच्छे economics करो, अच्छे revenue लाओ. फिर you will get many options along the way. Exit may be an option, IPO may be an option, secondary sale may be an option, raising investment may be an option. Whatever those options are, if you build a good business, they'll come. Don't think of the option, think of building the good business. The options will come on its own.
So that's perfect. Like focus on creating value. Yeah, and now a lot of people wants to connect with you and they want investment, let's say from B3 Ventures and especially personally from Arjun Vaidya as well. So आपको कैसे reach out कर सकते हैं और कैसे pitch कर सकते हैं आपको अपना idea?
Write to me on LinkedIn or Instagram and I'm happy to have a conversation.
And they can directly pitch or they can start the conversation. They can उसके बाद आप pitch. So guys, don't miss the opportunity. I want to ask 2-3 personal questions as well because you started in 2016. You were married in 2016, right?
I was not married.
You're not married. You got married in 2018, 19?
2018.
2018. So
by the time Trisha joined the business, though, we were engaged.
You were engaged. Work-life balance before marriage, after marriage, and now after baby.
I think work-life balance after marriage was we were working together. So work and life happened together also. And I think that's the way we did. So we call it work-life merger. After the baby, I think there's been a significant change. So I always want to be back on a Saturday or Sunday to Bombay, get that weekend with the baby. When she's not well, I want to spend time with her. I want to try to be home when she's falling asleep to read to her as she goes to sleep. So I think there is a big change in perspective after the baby over the last 8 months.
Yeah, so it's like spending quality time with her. But let's say before that, a lot of founders are listening. Maybe उनके बच्चे 10-15 साल के हो गए होंगे, or maybe before marriage. Let's say my age, 20, 25, 26. Do you reckon the hustle culture चल रहा है आजकल? 10-12 घंटे काम करना, 15 घंटे काम करना. Initial days में, what's your take on that?
Look, I think that there is a real concept called burnout. Burnout exists. There are weekends where मुझे काम करना था, but Sunday सुबह उठ के I could not do any work. I could not open my phone, right? And that's burnout, right? So it's great to work hard, and I'm a big proponent of hard work, but it's also important to take a break once in a while to recharge, refresh, rejuvenate. That break could be 1 hour, that break could be 1 day, that break could be 10 days. But whatever that break is, take that break. It's really important.
That's perfect. I think बहुत पूछने को तो रात हो जाएगी, बहुत सारे सवाल है and I will let audience see आप इनको Instagram पे check कीजिए. I started putting out a lot of reels, and I'm myself learning because I run a performance marketing agency for D2C and learn a lot of things from your videos as well. And मैं खुद clients को भेजता हूँ, team को भेजता हूँ कि अर्जुन वैद्य को पक्का follow करो, and his LinkedIn as well. Do check him out, and also अगर आपको investment चाहिए तो do talk to him, Arjun Vaidya, and also V3 Ventures. Reach out to him on LinkedIn. Any final message before we close?
Thank you, Piyush. Thank you for having me in this conversation, and all the best with the podcast, and yeah, all the best with what you're doing.
Yeah, I'm sure it's going to be good luck for your side because first episode आपके through launch हो रहा है, and during the Ganpati festival, कल से Ganpati start हो रहा है when we are recording this, and thank you so much for आपने busy schedule में से time दिया, and I really appreciate that.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.